Well, everybody, somehow I made it back. I was going to wait for the first part to get 100 views, but that happened quicker than anticipated, which forced my hand to put a little more effort into this one. I'm going to skip over what Confused Matthew said in the opening of his second review because it's mainly just a bunch of whining and complaining, like he usually does whenever he thinks he's talking about certain so-called useless scenes. And so instead, I'll just make this one quick comment about it. Suspense is the reason for these seemingly pointless scenes. If you take into account a film like Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, there are a lot of unnecessary scenes and sequences that have virtually no given merit when considering the larger context of the story. So what do these moments of empty air have to offer? Well, they add an atmosphere of unpredictability. It's when the pacing starts to mirror that of real life that it becomes more believable and harder to guess what the outcome will be. Will the good guys win? Will the protagonist survive? Will the villain at least get his comeuppance?
Meanwhile, Tommy Lee Jones continues his role of sitting on ass and contributing nothing to the story when his deputy comes in and discusses the poor bastard that Anton killed on the side of the road. He explains that they examined the body and that they couldn't find any bullet in the entry wound. Okay, we already know that Anton killed this guy, who has nothing to do with this movie, mind you, with his fancy little air tank. So, is this conversation going to give you any insight into that? Is it going to give you any insight into your character, someone else's character, some part of the story? Does it add in any way to the plot? Is there any reason in the fucking universe why we needed to watch that scene?
Matthew, I once saw this movie by Robert Rodriguez called Once Upon a Time in Mexico, where Johnny Depp's character shoots a random cook for no other reason than that he made his food too good. And it is never mentioned throughout the rest of the film. Now, compare that with what's going on here. Every action has its consequence, even the murder of civilians. And these scenes do give you insight into the characters. Just from hearing them discuss the case, we can tell how they think and react to things. After establishing that, the film then goes into chase mode as Llewellyn is hunted relentlessly by the spree killer slasher villain Anton Chigurh. This is a very unique premise. While Moss is a self-sufficient survivalist well-versed in the techniques of self-healing and being highly resourceful, his predator is also equally, if not more, skilled than he is. And now, while it may seem like a tedious exercise, let me ask you something, Matthew. Weren't you just a little amused by the cat-and-mouse game between Anton and Moss? Llewellyn must find an ingenious way of hiding the bag of money, and then come up with another ingenious way of retrieving it from another room when he spots trouble. And Anton is just as methodical, even bursting back into the same room he just checked into in case someone came out of hiding. Eventually, he finds the room Llewellyn checked in, or maybe it was the next door room, and he takes down the Mexican gang stationed there with a shotgun with a silencer. It is here that something very interesting happens. If you recall, Llewellyn stole one of the small submachine guns he found at the botched drug deal in an attempt to save his own life. Well, here, one of the Mexicans Anton kills, he's the one in the picture to the left. Anyways, one of the people he kills has a very similar brand of gun that Llewellyn stole, and it does him no good. Go and watch the film again, and you'll notice that when Anton shoots him, he fires the gun madly in the air. And in fact, as you can see from these freeze frames, he actually dies in the very same position as Llewellyn does later on, proving the point that resourcefulness will not save you.
So then Woody Harrelson comes in out of butt-fuck nowhere and starts talking to Stephen Root. Guys, You haven't developed the characters that you already have, and now you're dumping more in? You haven't given us any characters in the hour that this abortion has been running, and now you're introducing more? Why don't you develop the characters you have instead of dumping more empty vessels into this pile of shit? All I'm going to say is this: if you're introducing more people an hour into the film when so far no one and nothing has happened in your film, you better have a goddamn good reason for bringing them into the story.
It's fun to criticize things, isn't it? Matthew, this is called minimalism. You are only given as much as you need to know. And so, what can we tell from this brief introduction? Well, if you notice, Woody Harrelson's character, Wells, is a very cocky man. When the man who hires him asks him how dangerous Anton is, he blows it off as though he has dealt with this before. When he leaves, Wells asks his employer this question: "I counted the rooms to this floor, and one is missing." His employer responds sarcastically by saying, "We'll look into it." This missing floor is a reference to the 13th floor. You see, a lot of buildings are actually designed without a 13th floor in an attempt to ward off bad luck. But we'll get into the payoff of this later on. Later on, Llewellyn once again has trouble sleeping. Not because he didn't give someone their water, but because he can't understand how he was found by those men. This leads him to the discovery of the transponder in the bag of money. Too late, Anton is already there, and the two get into a shootout that spans the city block. During this, both men are injured.
So once again, this movie has been on for over an hour, and all that's happened is that some guy found a bag of money and got away with it twice, and some other guy is trying to retrieve it but didn't get it twice. So after getting away from the shootout, Llewellyn kind of wanders around the border for 5 hours. Oh, wait. Stop the sarcasm. Here comes a group of kids. Holy hell, is something actually going to happen in this movie now?
If you are paying attention, what does happen is that Llewellyn gets a brief sting of karma. When he encounters the kids, he is bleeding profusely, but rather than show concern, for the most part they seem more interested in how much money they can get out of him for being good Samaritans. Kinda like how earlier, Llewellyn denied help to the dehydrated Mexican because he had no direct reason to care. It is here he is finding out what it's like to be on the receiving end. So then, in one of the most wickedly ingenious scenes in film history since MacGyver, Anton creates a makeshift car bomb using cotton balls, a lighter, and a rag laced with gasoline. It explodes outside a pharmacy with everyone looking the other way while he quietly steals the medical supplies he needs. It is portrayed so realistically that it makes one wonder if such acts are really possible in real life. The part where Anton performs home surgery is also so cleverly detailed that one can't help but take notes of what he's doing. First he snips off his pants. Then he takes a bath to clean the wound. Then he mixes iodine with water so it won't be too painful. Then he pokes a hole into the bottle, gently sprays around the area to kill bacteria. He gives himself injections to numb the area. Off to the side, he boils tweezers to disinfect them. Then he goes fishing around the cut area, picking out shrapnel. And then he finishes off by making a cast for himself. There, now you try.
So Anton cleans his wound. 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 No, stop telling me to shut up. If you were happy watching this in the film, you should be perfectly happy watching a description of this in the film.
Dude, listening to you narrate No Country for Old Men is like listening to Gilbert Gottfried narrate porn.
Starts jerking off the father. The daughter is fish fucking the father in the ass. The son is licking the daughter's asshole out while the dog is pissing on the son's face. They all start jerking off the dog. The dog starts coming. The father catches the cum, rubs it all over his daughter's cunt. He sticks his dick in the daughter's cunt, which is...
In other words, it's fucking annoying!